And we continue at 2:06 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, The John Phillips Show. Broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios, where Wesley Snipes would tell you, always bet on black. Mr. Randy Wangs at the sports desk in Culver City.
John, Attorney General Rob Bonta wants to thank his staff at the DOJ the only way he knows how to, with a bucket full of cliches.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to thank my team at California DOJ, who tirelessly dedicate themselves to the service, well-being, civil rights of our fellow Californians. They do it with their head down and complete mission-driven focus every day, not looking for recognition because they know it's the purpose and the meaning of what they do that's important. But I want to recognize them for their incredible work.
It takes a lot to say so little.
Every type of leadership is about meeting the moment and rising to the occasion, and this is what's required. And so we're stepping up and getting it done.
He's the special ed Gavin Newsom.
And he wants to replace him.
800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is a pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is the author of the upcoming book that is available for pre-order online at Amazon.com. The title is Corrupt, the Inside Story of Biden's Dark Money, written by political whiz, former advisor to former President Bill Clinton and so many other politicians, bold-faced names, Dick Morris. Dick, welcome.
Thank you. And current advisor to Donald Trump, a pretty bold-faced name.
No kidding. That's about as bold as they come.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, I'm working very closely with Trump and have been for the last 3 years. But people ask me, how did you go from to Trump? And I say, I didn't move. The world moved. The Democratic Party moved to the left, and, I stayed in the same place. I'm still at the 50-yard line, but now it's deep in the end zone.
Dick, tell us about the new book. What people are finishing up some of their last-minute summer travels. They're looking for something to read on the plane. Tell us about it.
Okay, well, the book really is in two parts. The first articulates and lists all of the money Joe Biden received from all of these countries and all of the bribes and the business deals and so on. The second part of the book, which I think is even more important, details what China got from Biden in return for the money, because that hasn't been publicized very much. China got a complete pass on COVID. No investigation of its source, no investigation of why the Chinese were making this horrible thing in the first place, and no real investigation about how it began to infect people. We instead just let them do their straight back theory. Also, right now, China is doing everything it can to undermine the dollar's supremacy and make it like any other currency. And that would be a huge blow to the United States. Trump said it would be our worst defeat in 200 years, and he's right. And Biden is doing nothing to discourage that, and in fact is helping it happen. There right now is a Chinese monopoly on rare earth minerals. That's the stuff that makes it possible to have cell phones and internet and all of that stuff. And the U.S. has not produced any, and there was a proposal to build a plant, and actually a proposal to do it immediately in Minnesota that would have replaced a third of the rare earth minerals we need. And Biden vetoed it because he said it would endanger a lake. And Chinese now have the ability to make, in fact, a requirement to make any company that's moving from America to China sign an agreement giving China all of their intellectual property and all of their trade secrets as a condition of coming in. And we've done nothing to discourage that, to penalize those companies, to have recoupment of the aid and assistance we've given them. Trump's proposed all that, and Biden has never done it. So Kennedy almost had a nuclear war to stop Russian bases in Cuba, and now Cuba is having a Chinese base, and Biden says nothing about it. Just in area after area, this guy has completely sold out American interests. And this book presents a compendium of what he's done.
Dick, if Joe Biden were to be asked about the questions that you just brought up, either in an interview, if he goes on 60 Minutes or the Today Show or one of those programs, or in a debate with former President Donald Trump, given the decline in his cognitive abilities, could this be the crash and burn moment?
Yeah, well, yeah, I was thinking you asked me, what does he say? And I thought I was going to ad-lib, well, the grass is green and the sky is blue. God knows what he would say. But look, I think that as the world has come up to meet Joe Biden, and we've seen the intersection of his senility and fragility with the perils we face in the world is coming to the clear conclusion that we need Donald Trump back. I just got a poll back from McLaughlin and Associates. Trump is now winning 27% of the black vote. He got 12% in 2020. He's winning 39% of the Hispanic vote. He got 27% in 2020. He's 6 points ahead of Biden, and at 60+% for the Republican primary. And I think the world is coming to the conclusion that we just need Donald Trump back.
I saw a piece recently, don't know if you read it, in The Nation magazine, written by Eli Mistal, who is a left-wing talking head over on MSNBC. And he essentially made the argument that the conflict going on right now, following the terrorist attacks that Hamas committed against Israel, that Biden is seen in the Democratic Party, or at least among Democratic voters, as being pro-Israel. And Eli said that that is going to cost him votes among Arabs, among young people, and among blacks. And if you look at states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, and others, that could be the margin of victory that evaporates for Joe Biden. Your thoughts?
Well, there's no margin of victory for Biden now. He's way underwater. And it is true that there are about 2% of voters cast by Muslims, but I believe that Joe Biden has enabled the Hamas terror raid. When Donald Trump took office, he had starved Iran with a 4-year blockade that did not permit them to sell oil. And their foreign currency reserves had dropped to $6 billion total, about the same size as Haiti. And then Biden rescinded the blockade, opened up the markets to oil, and Iran is now selling $70 billion a year worth of oil. And it's funding the massive terrorist strikes that we saw take place. So Biden may be saying he's pro-Israel, but in fact, his policies have enabled Iran and Hamas to strike as deeply as they have.
We're speaking with Dick Morris, author of the book Corrupt, the Inside Story of Biden's Dark Money, available for pre-order right now at Amazon.com. Dick, here's a question I get all the time from listeners. We've seen the awful attacks that took place in Israel and the shameful demonstrations that the Democratic Socialists of America have been conducting, not only in big cities all over the United States, but on college campuses all over the United States. And some of that fervor has resulted in violence and intimidation against Jews. We did an hour of calls of Jewish listeners who say that they are not wearing their yarmulkes or their Star of David. They're pulling down their mezuzahs. They're not going to certain parts of town because they feel like they're targets right now. At what point do you believe the vote will change? At what point do you believe we'll start seeing some movement among Jewish voters?
Well, I think we're seeing it now. I think this has reached a point of no return, where Jews are finally getting the point that they're confronting the biggest challenge to Judaism since the Holocaust, and that the left wing of the Democratic Party is not only not discouraging it, they're encouraging it. But let me go back to the Biden wealth thing. One example that I talk about in the book that's not been publicized is Biden had a friend named John Hyansky, who's a car dealer in Delaware. And it turned out that he got into trouble and he had a tax lien against him of $500,000. So Joe Biden went to
Dick? Did we lose Dick?
sorry,
Oh,
no,
there we
I'm
go.
back.
Okay.
So Biden went to the Overseas Private Investment Corporation and said, lend Hyansky $1 million, which they did. And then Hyansky turned around and wrote a check to Frank Biden, Joe's younger brother, for $500,000 to wipe out his tax lien. He's been just constantly using his family for personal favors and using them as his personal piggy bank for payoffs. And I think that what we're seeing now is a crime family in which he dispatches his brothers and sisters throughout the world to make deals and cut him in on financial rewards. They range from developing solar energy in Costa Rica to the Burisma oil company in Ukraine to rewarding the wife of the mayor of Moscow, who is the richest woman in Russia, and not sanctioning her for any of the assistance that they've given the Russian army in Ukraine. It includes a whole network of privilege and favors and payoffs given to foreign countries and given to others to kick back to their family and kick back to Joe's bank account. And I think that as Comer investigates this and uses his subpoena power to unearth this, we're going to get a lot of this. We just recently got evidence of a $200,000 check written by James Biden to Joe Biden. And James was at a failing investment in agribusiness, and Joe bailed them out with government money, and this check was to repay some of that. So you're talking about a crime family such as we've never had corruption. And let me say this. Federal ethics laws require the candidate or the president to reveal all investments and all income. And the wife, too. Jill has to do it also. But Frank and James and Hunter, none of the others have to do that. And it's a blind spot in our ethics law, and Biden is driving a truck through it with these bribes.
You know, the most surprising part about all this, Dick, is that you'd figure a guy who married a doctor wouldn't have to sell a soul.
Yeah, well, that'd be true. But listen, let's face it, the history of this. Joe Biden was the poorest member of the U.S. Senate. When he left the Senate after 36 years, his net worth was only $20,000. Then, when he became vice president, he began to rake in money. But after he left the vice presidency, his net worth increased by $20 million in 4 years because he had deals in Ukraine and Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and China and Russia and Costa Rica and all over the place to make money and to cut him in on it and peddle his name and his influence. And it became his full-time job. He got China to pay for a Biden Institute at the University of Pennsylvania and pay him $1 million a year for nothing, just not even to show up and teach. And that was funded by a $58 million grant from anonymous state-sponsored donors in China. So Biden has been on the take since the moment he left the vice presidency and continues to be. And this is clearly the most corrupt president we've had. And look, when a sewer contractor handles a payoff and gets a contract, that's called corruption. But when a leading adversary in the world gets significant strategic advantage over the United States in return for a payoff, that should be called treason.
The book is Corrupt, the Inside Story of Biden's Dark Money. Dick, before you go, one more question. Hillary Clinton, who you know well, you worked with her during your time advising Bill when he was president and governor of Arkansas, recently showed up at a big campaign event for Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who's running to be mayor of Houston, Texas, and the timing couldn't be more perfect. Hillary showed up after there was an audio tape that was made public of Sheila Jackson Lee berating in an extremely vulgar way one of her aides while she was in the car on the way to a campaign event. The tape was something that had to be bleeped about 9,000 times before you could play it on broadcast. It may be the final nail in the coffin of her campaign for mayor. People are moving away from her like she's got cancer that's contagious, yet Hillary Clinton showed up to do an event with her in Houston. Does that surprise you?
Well, Hillary is a super spreader of corruption. and I think, so if I were you, I wouldn't get near her if I'm running for office. But let's talk about Hillary. I think they're going to force Biden out of this race. I think that Trump has acquired a significant and permanent lead, and I think that Biden's credibility has been shot, and these investigations will result in his impeachment, not his removal, but the impeachment will contain enough evidence to make him quit. When that happens, there'll be a whole bunch of candidates jumping in, like Gavin Newsom and others. And at that point, I would not exclude the possibility that in a deadlock, they turn to Hillary Clinton.
If you were to get a couple of cocktails in Hillary Clinton and ask her what she thinks about Joe Biden's performance, what do you think she'd say?
Oh, God, you wouldn't need a couple. You just ask her. I mean, she would quote Barack Obama. She would quote Barack Obama, who said you can count on Joe Biden to F it up.
How salty is her language in private?
Not very. When she berates somebody, it is. But for the most part, she's circumspect and knows that she could be taped and so on. So she yells a lot, but it's not, she doesn't curse or stuff like that very much.
See, I would peg her as a cursor, but maybe Bill's the cursor and she's the one who speaks the Queen's English.
No, Bill isn't. Bill has a flash of temper that comes periodically, and then he calms down completely. But Bill and Hillary are both primarily conscious of tapes and tape recorders and all of that. So they watch their step and they watch their tongues.
I think I read in one of your books, I forget which one, although I've told you this a million times, that the new Prince is my favorite one. But there was one that you wrote about your time working with Bill Clinton where, and correct me if I'm wrong, he physically attacked you at one point when you were giving him bad information that was not positive for him and his electoral chances.
Yeah, he was running for his final term as governor. He faced a tough primary fight against a total unknown guy. But because voters in Arkansas were saying you've been governor for 10 years, we don't want you in there for 14 years, they were turning on him and voting against him. And I told Bill that, and I urged him to attack his opponent, which he did and ultimately won. But for a while there, it looked like he could be in trouble. And Bill screamed at me, "You're effing me, you're screwing me, you're spending all your time on other campaigns, you've become a Republican, you're not loyal to me," and so on and so on. And I reacted fiercely, and I said, "Look, you just solved my problem. I'm a 49-state Republican, and you're the only Democrat I've grandfathered in. I've taken a lot of SHIT for that, and now I'm not going to do it anymore. Now I'm a 50-state Republican. You lose this campaign on your own, buddy." And he ran up behind me, tackled me, and threatened to punch me, and Hillary pulled him off.
Oh, my God. See, this is why I love your books, Dick, because your books always have amazing stories like that, and they're always page-turners. And I've loved every single one that I've read and can't wait to read the new one, which is Corrupt, The Inside Story of Biden's Dark Money by Dick Morris. Dick, thanks so much for stopping by. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you're playing golf this weekend, but you don't want to play music while you play in the cart, you can put us on your phone, put us on the speaker, and you can listen to us while you play a round of golf.
That's right. It's real easy to do. Go to KABC.com, click on podcasts, go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe, or even easier than all that, download the KABC app, search KABC AM in the Apple App Store or the Android Store. Best way to listen live, noon and 3, when we're doing the show live here, wherever you are around the world. And, of course, you can download all the podcasts there. Works on your phone, works on CarPlay, works in your earbuds. And, in fact, if you pause this show just at the right second, second, and then you keep hitting stroke after stroke after stroke, you can just hit unpause.
I know.
In the meantime, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
Well, let's do that right now. 790 KABC welcomes Mariah Carey. Merry Christmas, one and all, at the Hollywood Bowl on November 19th. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. But right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Live Nation. Good luck dialing.
And Randy, next month, we're taking the show on the road.
That's right. Save the date 3 weeks from today, Friday, November 17th. John and I will be broadcasting live at the brand new Gelson's West LA at West Edge on the corner of Olympic and Bundy. That store opens next Wednesday, November 1st. So save the date. They've got a huge wine bar down there. Of course, all the other gorgeous amenities at the Westside Gelson's. We're going to be having a great time, noon to 3, Friday, November 17th.
Let's go to John in Lakewood. John, you're on KABC. Welcome.
Hi, John. Hi, Randy. Love you guys. You've been in my life for a long time. I used to listen to John on the way home from work on the weekends at night. Randy, when you were at TCJ, you guys are the best. And I just want to say how much I appreciate everything you guys do and how much you guys mean to me. You're awesome.
Well, thank you, sir. How much longer do you think it's going to take before you can turn?
Yeah.
I feel like you're either turning or you're listening to Leslie Stahl.
Well, no, what's happening, John, is John right now, he's stuck in traffic. He's actually sitting behind a Nissan Altima.
That was an Altima LTMA 489-9410. Please move it now. You're blocking someone.
Thank you for the call, sir. I appreciate it. Any excuse to play that.
Yep.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Well, earlier in the show, we were talking about the insane California loophole where a prosecutor can't go after someone who breaks into your car unless you testify in front of a judge that you knew the car was locked. Will writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. If you leave your front door unlocked and some lowlife steals all your belongings, does the unlocked door then make the burglary legal, or is it still burglary? No brainer for those with brains, therefore political hacks are excluded.
I like the logic. Well, if sometimes it seems like everyone around you is part of some traveling nut show, I think, Randy, we found the head cashew.
That's right. In Koreatown, there's a crazy lady who has 3 vans that are parked on the street, and they're all full of bags and bags and bags and bags of garbage. So much garbage, the car is weighed down by it. It's attracting rats. It's pissing off the neighbors, and apparently there's nothing anyone can do about it.
It's like if the A-team were a bunch of bums.
For more, here's a report from KCAL.
All right, take a look at this garbage right here. Just piles and piles of garbage piled on top of several cars. They're sitting right in front of an apartment building, too. And residents there say it's more than just an eyesore now.
Yeah, they told KCAL News reporter Jeff DeWin the problems they caused, and he found out if anything is being done about it.
Nothing is.
How is it that these are the only cars in L.A. that don't get broken into?
It's full of stuff ripe for the taking. And when I say ripe, I mean ripe.
It's unfair and tragic.
Lisa Derrick says it's been 7 years that vans have sat here, stuffed and stacked with trash in Koreatown near the corner of North Berendo and Council Streets. Neighbors say they belong to one woman who lives in a neighboring apartment.
Her vans will break down and she will get new ones and start building her monoliths of bags.
That sounds so gross.
This sounds like we need the show Hoarders to come back.
In ever-escalating piles.
Another neighbor who's concerned about her safety and doesn't want her face shown says the vans have been attracting rats.
It smells insane.
Just to give you a sense of how much trash is on top of this van, take a look at what happens when you go down here. This is the rear fender. and the tire, and there is so much weight.
You can tell, by the way, the reporter is having a hard time because he's trying to do this report while breathing through his mouth. He can't breathe through his nose because it is stinky down there.
And it permeates the entire neighborhood, I'm sure.
That you can't even get one finger inside the wheel well.
Lisa Derrick says the woman still drives the vans, and it's terrifying.
I'm concerned about the brakes. I'm concerned about her ability to...
There's too much garbage that she can't hit the brakes.
How are these not towed?
This is L.A. We don't tow anything.
I'm concerned about the brakes. I'm concerned about her ability to see over the dashboard.
We've also reached out to City Council multiple times. We have a chain of emails going on for, I think, 3 months now, where we just get empty promises.
Councilwoman Heather Hutt's office says it is collaborating with the Bureau of Street Services and the Department of Sanitation to address this issue.
How hard could this be?
This is the woman, by the way, who was not elected to this office. She was the second one appointed to fill the vacancy of Mark Ridley Thomas after he was sent to prison.
Good Lord.
Ann says next week it will be meeting with the city attorney to explore options for removing the debris, while the city attorney's office says it has not gotten any calls about the problem. Neighbors say...
Well, KCAL just told you. Now, city attorney Heidi Feldstein Soto, can you do something about this? Can somebody clean up these cars full of garbage that are attracting rats to a neighborhood?
They might do it now because they were on TV. But if they weren't on TV, there is zero chance that anything would happen.
Neighbors say one van was set on fire a few months back, and they're worried that might happen again.
To please assist.
That probably pushes California's climate efforts back about 50 years. Just that one car getting lit on fire.
Well, imagine if the fire hits the gas tank.
To please assist this woman for not only her benefit, but the benefit for all citizens in the neighborhood.
All right, now, John, on a range from 1 to 100, based on everything you've heard from this story, we've only heard about the vans. We haven't heard about the condition of this woman's house. How many cats does she have?
Oh, dozens.
We found 2 parked vans on Thursday, but neighbors say the woman has 3. One person believes she drove the third to work, even though it, too, is stuffed and stacked with trash. In Koreatown, Jeff Nguyen, KCAL News.
Imagine having one of your employees pull up in the parking lot driving that.
A garbage van.
What grade do you think she teaches at LAUSD?